Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Tonight I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
I'm doing awesome. Aether Skies, specific campaign threats for D&D and other TTRPG.
All right, so with this one, this is your baby, your territory. You ran the original campaign that you can watch here on the channel. You've run this at D&D in a castle, and the game was a while ago, so I don't have quite as much attachment and memory of the threats, but in the near future we're going to be running this game on the channel, so I'll get a close-up view again at that in the near future.
Right, and as you said, this game has been run as Open Legend. It has also been run as D&D at D&D in a Castle. We're going to be running it on the channel as D&D, and of course we're going to eventually add our own system and own take to it. You can find a link down to the gameplay playlist down in the description below. With that, some campaign-specific threats. I'll start off with kind of like a natural hazard of the fauna in Aether Skies, and that is Aether parasites, also known as strut strikers, because they're drawn to the struts on Aether ships, as well as Aether cities. And it's nothing important. It's just the thing that keeps them alive and keeps them in the sky. But it can also be a threat to individuals. If you're an Aether Ficer, it wants your gear. If you've been Aether Feist, which is basically you're kind of a Aether cyborg, it wants to eat some of your parts, which you might need, like your legs or your arms or whatever has been Aether Feist on you. You're an Aether Mancer, they will attach to you and begin sucking the magic straight out of you, which is intertwined with your life force. Very bad. And again, as we mentioned, they try and absorb from the cities. Less of a threat because it will require a lot of them in order to really hurt the cities before. And they're usually dealt with pretty quick. They've got people that are on that. I think rat catchers, but in this case, they're kind of like underneath the cities and on the outside of the cities, making sure these things aren't a problem. For the ships, they are a bigger problem because if enough of them suck away enough ether from the ship is less of a ship and more of a stone that is going to be plummeting towards the earth, and nothing is going to survive that. The other problem with strut strikers is they tend to attract storm killers. A storm killer, think of a giant flying whale. They just swim along and eat these things up as if they were candy.
I've used them as kind of like the sperm whale that just kind of swims along and sucks in all the krill. With as big as they are, like they're gonna be just a threat to everything around it, just because it could be an obstacle. Think iceberg ahead in Titanic, but it's a mobile obstacle instead.
Right, or a pod of them, right? There's a bunch of them flying, and also some of them get big enough to swallow ships whole, depending on what size the ship is, which creates a whole nother problem. If they just see a flock or a swarm of strut strikers, they're just going to scoop them up. So other, threats when you're speaking of the fauna and flora of Aether Skies, you have corruption. It's been seeping out of Eldritch seals that have been failing for hundreds, if not 1,000 years, and being absorbed into the natural world. Early on, the adventuring party actually went on the excursion to the surface where they encountered a bear where its claws and teeth were completely made of crystal. It might even have some crystal protrusions coming out of his back as well. So where it wasn't any more hostile, I think, than any other bear would be, but it was slightly more powerful and they were able to kind of befriend it. Also, it did have some psychic powers as well, which a lot of these things that have been influenced by the Eldritch realm, for whatever reason, tends to awaken the mind as well.
Was it Krezak that befriended him, or was it Doug's character?
No, it was Krezak that did the befriending. Well, because he's the psychic and he was able to psychic link to it. But I think also Doug's character took a liking to the bear as well. I think it was because he was playing his dwarf with a Russian accent. I think that's TTRPG logic.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest threat specific to this campaign is these Eldritch horrors that we mentioned. And they seem to be centered on the lost city of Haven that fell and has returned. And with it, there's curtain of gloom that just surrounds it. The cloud cover underneath of it is all dark and stormy looking. It has, eerie purple and green lightning. It can be seen like skimming along the top of the cloud cover. From that place, my first adventuring party that Ted was a part of encountered some really nasty horrors. There was definitely something that was chasing them from the city that very much kind of, it was similar to except for instead of being in the water and aquatic, it was aerial, it flew. It was slightly different, but that's how I described it to the group because they all are D&D players and they know what that looks like and they know to be afraid of it. But there are other Eldritch horrors from the city as well. In my last campaign that I ran as a D&D campaign, a lot of the objects from the city have been infested with what I'm calling dark riders. And basically what they can do is once they make contact with a person, they can leave the object and infect them. And these are things from this Eldritch realm. But their goal is, and all the things goals from Haven, is to expand the cracks in the seal so even bigger and uglier and nastier things can come through and possibly conquer this world. Aside from that, you also have the threat of other intelligent races, other cities. All the cities are xenophobic. So there's lots of opportunities to have to deal with, or that you will have to deal with espionage from these other cities. They're kind of like at a Cold War ever since the fall of Haven. With that, they kind of went away from an active war because whenever
the elements of humans or humanoids is quite dichotomous in this particular setting, because clearly no one city is going to just be like, oh, I don't talk to anyone. There's going to be trade and there's going to be the ether ball that happens. So there are ships that go round and round. But at the same time, just like in any other fantasy era, you're going to have that are out there that are going to try and sink your ship. And you're going to have, as Dave says, espionage and political threats. Somebody could be kind of coming into your city to cause problems and what have you. You have so many different areas that you could explore. You can just stay completely urban and still have to deal with humans and monsters. You could be on a sailing vessel in the sky having to deal with humans and monsters, or you could go down to the surface and deal with monsters and more monsters.
Yeah.
And maybe
humans. I think we really want to delve. I think with this campaign, we're also going to delve more into beastkin, which are people that are born with corruption. Right now, I don't think they're particularly good or bad per se, but the fact that they're born with corruption and feed off of that right from the beginning does open the doorway for them to go bad a lot easier than others. The temptation will always be there for them.
Completely. So I love the aspect of what D&D has done with the tieflings. In editions past, it was a scenario where it's like, oh, you're a tiefling, someone in your history, demonic or devil blood, and that's just the way it was. And I don't recall in any previous edition there being, oh, at puberty, all of a sudden you begin to manifest and change. I love that aspect that all of a sudden it's poof, it's there. Now, I don't know exactly how we're playing the beastkin, whether it's a slow change over the course of your life, or whether it's just a manifestation at puberty or what have you. When you're trying to make your own setting, it's fun to be like, okay, I want to make things unique for my world. But at the same time, if you're playing D&D, well, how can I play this race and how can I play that race when you want to be unique? So I decided I wanted to play this race here, but it's like, well, how does that fit in Under the Dome? And Dave's like, well, what if we introduce this concept of beastkin and how this whole thing that, Dave has just described. So it's awesome to have, any of these insert anthropomorphized animals, if they exist in a number of books, you could play them here as just the lore of a beastkin, and you can have as much or as little of the anthropomorphized animal in you. So like my character is like, well, he's got rabbit from the knee down, so he's got the big bouncy feet, and he's a rabbit from the head up. But other than that, like he's still got regular fingers, he's got properly proportioned the rest of it. So he definitely is part animal, definitely a beastkin, but it's the percentage that I wanted, not only for like, oh, I want to make this mini or what have you, but just because it's like, all right, well, I think that could be not having to argue with, well, how does my character manipulate weapons and tools as this character? Oh no, he's got regular hands, he's all good.
So the way I want to do it is I think there's not going to be any like standard, or it's not going to be like they're all born this way. It all happens in puberty. It's all different, right? Like maybe you're born almost perfectly normal, except for you have two little bumps on your head, right? That grow out as you get older. Or maybe you full on come out looking like a satyr when you're born. Or like you said, maybe it manifests, or maybe something in your life happens and triggers it. And I even though they're not evil per se, I feel like there will be a higher number of them that are, because they're treated badly, right? Like,
sure, it's just like tieflings. There's going to be a stigma about them, and people are going to be like, "Oh God, there's this going on." So, like, if you're good, you're going to have to work harder to get past the stigma, and that's an element that I like to play with, and that leans heavily into like the viewpoint that I have for my character. It's a threat of having to just go up against this wall of the common belief.
So if I had to sum up the threats in Aether Skies, I would basically just say aberrations and monstrosities, these corrupted, because I think they're probably going to fall under the monstrosity category for the most part.
I would move that into a third category, given all of the different dynamics of the game, and say people as the third.
Well, people usually do suck. So yeah, people would be our third. So next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.